All right, welcome back. Today we are going to talk about something called the law of sine, okay, or the law of sines. Now, the reason we need to use this, we saw yesterday, it's pretty easy to solve a triangle using SOHCAHTOA, right? Using SOHCAHTOA, we can find what are the missing sides of a triangle. However, that only works on a right triangle, okay? We look below. This is not a right triangle, okay? We have a few examples of them. And when we have triangles that are not right triangles, the word for that, they are called oblique triangles, okay? So oblique. And that is simply any triangle that is not a right triangle. Now, we look here, there's a couple markings. You got A, B, and C that are capital. And when they are capital, that is a sign of that is our angle. Okay, and then you also got the lowercase. So lowercase a, lowercase b, lowercase c, those are our sides. Notice the angles and sides where the matching letters are always going to be opposite from each other. So what we mean by that is like angle B is over here made up with these two sides. Side B is the one side that does not make up angle B. It's opposite. Okay? A across from A, C across from C. Now, some of you might prefer, instead of putting that C on the inside, if you make it clear it's capital, I would accept it on the outside as well. Okay, so whatever you prefer, it can be on the inside or the outside. The key is it has to be capital. Okay, so now let's look at this first one. It says label the missing sides and angles of the triangle below. So we have A, we have a B. There's only one angle left. It clearly has to be our C. Now remember opposite, so this will be C, opposite of A, this will be A, our B is already there. Okay, so as we mentioned before, I think I just mentioned this at the beginning, SOHCAHTOA is only for our right triangles. When we don't have right triangles, we can use something called the law of sine, or the law of sines. Okay, what this tells us is that the sine of A divided by side A is equal to the sine of B divided by side B is equal to the sine of C divided by side C. Okay, these are always going to be true. Now, I think Delta Math does it the other way. It has the reciprocals, so you might want to jot over here A divided by sine of A also equals B divided by sine of B. Oops, that's not a very good B, which hopefully makes sense that the reciprocal would also be true. And that also equals C. Oops, that kind of looks like a capital. So let me fix that. C divided by sine of C. Do have to be careful with A and B are pretty clear. With C, it's not quite as obvious. Okay, so we're going to use these formulas to help us solve the triangle. So on the back here, solve each triangle. And once again, if you're not sure, solving a triangle just means find all the parts. So right there, that means find all the parts. Now, when you do this, make sure that you only solve it once your calculator is in degree mode. Okay, so I'm going to write degree mode up here. Just as a reminder, we need it to be in degree mode or else we will have some problems. Okay, so the first one, if I look at this, so we want to find what side A, side B, and A is. When I look at this, I instantly think if I have two angles, let's find that third angle. It's very easy. We know every triangle in the world, the three angles add up to 180. So all we got to do, 95 plus that 45, that'll give us 140. Just take 180 minus 140, and we're left with 40 degrees for angle A. Okay, so this is 40 degrees. Okay, now, as we said, we know that the sine of one of these angles can be compared to, the sine of A divided by A will equal the sine of B divided by B. Now, we can only do this if we have both A and A, or B and B, or C and C. So if we look here, the 95 and the 5, that's the only one we're matched up with. So I know that the sine of 95 divided by 5 has to be equal, and I can do either A or B. We'll do them both eventually. So A So it'd be the sine of 40 degrees divided by that little a. Now we'd cross multiply. We get a sine of 95 will equal 5 times the sine of 40. Now we just need to divide by the sine of 95. And then all we got to do is type that into our calculator to find what a equals. So once again, we open the calculator. I got to stress this so much because people are going to make this mistake. Okay, go to mode and double check that it's in radians. If you're using the one on the computer, it's going to be in radians. Sorry, we want it to be in degrees, so we change it to degrees. Okay, so once again, to do that, you hit mode. It's the third one down. Change that so it's on degrees. Use the arrows, then hit enter. If we hit clear, it goes back. Up here, you can double check. It says degree. We know it's in degree. Now, I can do 5 times the sine of 40 divided by sine of 95. If it helps you, I don't know if you guys remember from chapter 6, but if I hit alpha lock and then stat plot and then enter, I get the fraction. Some of you might find that helpful. 5 times the sine of 40, close the parenthesis, all over the sine of 95. Close it again. We hit enter. And we will get, let's go to the nearest tenth. It says in the directions, so 3.2. Now, some of you might not want to deal with that. If you don't want it, once again, just hit alpha, then y equals, then enter. That gets you a fraction. Oops. Or if you prefer, you can just do 5 times the sine of 40 divided by the sine of 45. Okay. Oops, not 45, 95. Doesn't matter which way you do it. As you can see, we get the same answer either way. So now we want to find what side B is. So all we have to do is same approach. Once again, we still know that the sine of 95 divided by 5 will be equal to this, except instead it'll be over B, and it's the sine across from B instead of 40 is 45. Okay, so we'll do the same exact thing. We'll multiply 5 times sine of 45 divided by sine of 95. I'm not going to write it all out. So 5 times the sine 45 divided by what is the sine of 95. We hit enter. Also, in the future, so we get 3.5. One thing that can save you some time is when we were doing this, the only thing that changed from the last problem is instead of sine of 40, it was now sine of 45. If I hit second enter, it shows the exact thing I just typed. If I do it again, second enter, goes back 2 times. Okay, so second enter again, it'll go back again. Second enter, it keeps going back into my history. Okay, so if you just hit second enter, you can go back, you can type it, just change something. Then I can arrow over in, I can change this from like a 40 to a 45, hit enter, and I get my answer. All right, so we are done. We have found each of the missing parts. Now in example 2, similar approach, except we don't have a picture. So the first thing I would do if I had this problem, I would start by drawing your picture. Now, it's up to you. I know on the example in the front, we had the letters in the inside. I kind of like to put them on the outside as like my vertices, so that way we can see them. Now, this picture is not drawn to scale. Okay? This is 20 degrees here at B. We know that's not drawn to scale, but it will be good enough to help us. Okay, that's 40 degrees, and here's A. Oh, instead of an A, whoops, I shouldn't have an A there. I should have 23, and then I don't know what C is. So once again, first thing I would do if I had this is find what angle C is here. So 20 plus 40 gives us 60. We take that 180 minus that 60. We have 120. Okay, 120 degrees. As you can see, it's definitely not drawn to scale, but that's okay. We don't need it to be drawn to scale. We just need it to help us keep organized and where things are in relation to each other. So now we need B and C. So once again, we can do sine of 40 divided by 23 equals, and then it'll be sine of 20 over b. We cross multiply just like last time. We get b times sine 40, so our final value of b will be 23 times sine of 20 divided by that sine of 40. So 23 times, not times sine of 20 divided by sine of 40. We hit enter and we get 12.2. Okay, now that worked. If you wanted, I referenced this. Some of you might instead prefer to set this up the other way, 23 over sine of 40. That will equal b over the sine of 20. If you do it this way, you'll get the exact same answer. It does not matter which way you do it. Reciprocals with proportions, back in geometry, you should approve this, but reciprocals are always going to also be true. Okay, so we're done with finding b. Now we need to find c. So once again, I'll use the original one for a, so sine of 40 over 23. That will equal, then we said for c, so sine of 120 divided by c. So we cross multiply, it'll be 23 times that sine of 120. And then we take this and we divide it by the sine of 40. If we round that up, 30.98, so we round up, it'll end up with 31.0. All right, just about done. We got one last problem here. So number 3, once again, I strongly recommend you draw a picture. It's up to you. It doesn't really matter where the labels are. The key is just follow this as kind of your template. Okay, so 70, 10 degrees. The ones across, remember this is a 5, that's side B. Then to figure this out, once again, I recommend find the missing angle first. That's the easy one. 70 plus 10 is 80. Take 180 divided or minus that 80, and we get 100 degrees. That is what angle A is. So now, all we have to do, we've got sine of 70 divided by 5. Okay, this will equal, we can do both of these, okay? So sine of 100 divided by A. If we multiply, we're going to get 5 times the sine of 100 divided by, 5 times sine of 100 divided by the sine of 70. So we get 5.2 as our value of A. And our last one then, sine of 70 still, divided by 5 equals sine of, I believe it was 10. Let's double check. Yep, 10 over C. We cross multiply, it'll be the same thing. Now here's a hint. The side across from the bigger the angle is that it's across from, the bigger the side will be. So we knew since 100 was bigger than 70, our answer 5.2 had to be bigger than that 5. So with this one 10, we know it has to be less than 5. If we get something that's not less than 5, we know we made a mistake. But 5 times, so sine of 10 divided by, what is that, sine of 70. And we hit enter, and as you can see, it is less. It'll be 0.9 when we round it to the nearest tenth, and we are done. So take a look at Delta Math. Make sure you get this assignment done, and if you need anything, definitely let me know. And if you didn't do the test from last week, please get that done. Quarter ends Friday. Bye.